Man, so the Jets lose to the Baltimore Ravens 23-10. This was expected, right? If you look at what was the line coming in, the Jets were 13 and a half or 14 and a half point dogs. This was the expected outcome. But with that said, man, we are getting close. We are getting close to where we want to be. This is the first time I think I've said this all year, but the score today, did not reflect how the Jets played. I felt like for, the first half or like a good portion, a good chunk of this game, the Jets were in control. They were doing their thing. I mean, what were they leading at halftime? We did so many good things in today's game. And really, I think the loss came down to three things. And we can break it down in no set order, but let's talk about the first. It was Aaron Glenn deciding to go for it in his own territory with still so much time left in the game. I understand it somewhat, like if you're a defensive-minded head coach, you don't want to put your defense right back out on the field after allowing a touchdown. I get it. But you just can't. And this is, by the way, no sort of hindsight 2020 thing. I don't really like all the aggression with going for it on fourth down across the league, let alone the Jets, a team that doesn't really have much help, doesn't really have much firepower, and has a question mark at quarterback and a young offensive coordinator. So I think just based off of that context alone, I prefer to punt in most situations, especially if we're on our side of the 50, especially if there's still so much time left in the game. I am fine giving the ball back to Baltimore, back on their own 20, back on their own 25 or 30. I'm cool with that. So I didn't like the decision to go for it, then and there. Was that the only reason why the Jets lost? No, but it definitely felt like it was the turning point. The second big deciding factor to me was the Breece Hall fumble near the goal line. Look, it happens. The Jets, for whatever reason, cannot fall on a fumble. I feel like it's been, 10 years? It has got to be realistically at least 5 years, at least 3 to 5 years since the Jets have recovered a fumble. I mean, I can't even picture the last time. I've been watching every snap of Jets football pretty much my entire life. And I have to go back such a long ways to actually picture a Jets defensive player landing on a fumble, getting a fumble recovery. It's just so few and far between. But again, the Breece Hall fumble, not only are you giving, you're losing the turnover battle there, but you're also taking points off of the board. You're in the red zone. You're driving down the field. At that point, I believe it was only a 2-possession game down by 10 points. So a touchdown there would have been awesome. But even a field goal, it would have cut the lead into, down to one score. But of course, it does go back to Baltimore. So you had the Aaron Glenn going for it, kind of flipped the momentum a bit. You had the Breece Hall fumble late. And then I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to be that fan. And this is something I don't really bring up all that often in recap videos. But I felt like the officiating today was completely one-sided. I mean, are you kidding me? They're calling these ticky-tack fouls. Oh, holding on Joe Tippmann, holding on John Simpson. Pass interference, Tony Adams on an uncatchable ball out of the end zone. Breece Hall can get slung out of bounds and almost rams into the bench with players sitting down on it. No flag. No flag. Tyrod Taylor can get hit late. No flag. I mean, we've seen what's happened this season with Justin Fields as a runner. These refs just do not give roughing the passer or unnecessary roughness calls to defenders when they are hitting our quarterback. It makes no sense to me. Again, I don't want to be that guy. That's not the main reason why the Jets lost. But it was pretty apparent, right? It was pretty apparent that the calls were going one way and the Jets weren't really favored, in that regard. So if you lose the turnover battle, if you have all these penalties stacked against you and, some of them are just like, how can you call that type of thing? And some of them were just blatant misses going, against Baltimore. If they would have called that, roughing the passer on Tyrod Taylor, that was on a 3rd down and 10. Imagine another 15 yards. We're knocking on the door of another touchdown there. So it's just, situations like that. But, really those three things I felt like were the key difference on how this game went in Baltimore's favor. But, in totality, I felt like we controlled the trenches on the defensive line. It wasn't like Lamar was breaking free a whole lot. He definitely did not look 100% healthy, but he was not in a position where he was completely immobile. He was extending plays. Like, he looked faster than 95% of quarterbacks that are starting today anyway. I mean, you look at the amount of Derrick Henry had over 20 carries and couldn't break 70 yards, 70, 80 yards rushing. I think he had 64, 65 rushing yards. Again, with over 20 carries, and stopping the run has been a bit of a question mark for this Jets team. So I think that was a pretty big building block. Or maybe a moment that Steve Wilks can look at and say, hey, we really did a good job. Briggs, Harrison Phillips, they did a really good job of just kind of controlling that defensive line, controlling that line of scrimmage, which again is a massive positive moving forward into the season. Like, that's something where if you're Steve Wilks, Aaron Glenn watching the tape on, tonight, tomorrow, whenever they get to it, ideally on the ride home, the flight, the flight home, that's something where you can say, okay, hey, you know what, for the rest of the season, we got to build on this. We cannot have, because we've seen it before. Offenses just slice right through this defensive line. That was not the case today. Overall, we did pretty damn good on third downs defensively speaking. Now, to be fair, there were a couple drops with Baltimore receivers. It wasn't a perfect game for Baltimore, but overall, like, the Jets have struggled getting off the field as a defense on third downs. Not today, right? They did a pretty good job. Now, unfortunately, Baltimore was 2 for 2 on fourth downs, and again, one of those was a TD. So if you're losing the turnover battle, if you're giving up these fourth down conversions, and you're not getting them on your end, yeah, it's going to be tough, especially playing in their house. They're getting the calls. It was going to be an uphill battle to begin with. But, offensively speaking, we roll out Tyrod, and he's getting his second start of the season. He had over 200 passing yards, right? The drop back passing game was there today. And mind you, again, no AVT, no Garrett Wilson to help in the passing game. We are starting John Mechie, who showed up 2 weeks ago. We are starting Adonai Mitchell, who showed up 2 weeks ago. Both guys were impressive. John Mechie has another touchdown grab. John Mechie in 2 games has better stats than Josh Reynolds, Allen Lazard, right? Tyler Johnson in 2 games. John Mechie was wide receiver 4, could barely crack the lineup in Philly, barely get involved. And he are in 2 games, just showing up in the middle of the season with one of these games is with Justin Fields as a passer. He already has more total yards, more touchdowns than 3. Throw Arian Smith on top of that as well. He has more production than all these guys. That was the state of the wide receiving corps before Mechie and Mitchell showed up. Now, Mitchell had over 40 yards today, one of which came on a huge chunk play from Tyrod, kind of extending the play and hitting him. But you just see the speed and explosion with Mitchell. Like, he really put an emphasis on getting upfield. 80 Mitchell, man, he feels like a sleeping giant. I am just I kind of look at Mitchell like a 3-point shooter. In the NBA and college basketball, because you look at last week, everyone is just ripping him. Oh, he has so many drops. He sucks. He's stone hands. If a 3-point shooter is giving you everything, right? He's giving you movement, he's giving you spacing, he's giving you great shooting mechanics, and he's getting open, but the shots aren't falling, they're going to come. You don't kill the 3-point shooter because the shots aren't falling. Eventually, because he has so many things going in his favor, it's going to come. You just got to stick with it. With Mitchell, he has the size, he has the speed. You just look at the separation that he was putting on display against New England. You can just see how big of a physical presence that he can be. You upgrade, A, you get healthy, B, you upgrade the quarterback in the offseason, you bring Garrett Wilson into the offense. Now, all of a sudden, the attention kind of dissolves a bit off of Mechie and Mitchell. Whew. This is... I'm really excited to see what Adonai Mitchell can do with some consistent quarterback play. And again, it's all about reps, right? From here on out, post-trade deadline, it's all about getting reps for these guys. The Jawan Briggs, the Brownlees, the Mozzie Smiths, right? Getting these guys involved, getting these guys snaps. Mitchell, Arian Smith too. Mason Taylor's another one. So I think there was a lot of building blocks today. Again, the Jets lost. Oh, multi-score loss. I get it. It sucks. We lost. But big picture here, I thought we improved in a lot of metrics. I thought the game was fun. It was entertaining. It was back and forth. It never felt one-sided at all. And you take away some of these ticky-tack calls. Is the final score what it is? I don't know. Maybe not. I don't know. But it played a part. Breece Hall goal line fumble. strange fourth down decision by Glenn to go for it, alleviate some of these mistakes. And what will this final score look like? So just take it, learn from it, and grow. That's all you can do. You can't go backwards. You can't replay the game. Rewatch the tape. Understand that, hey, maybe there is some questionable decisions made, and move forward. So it's not the end of the world. I like what I saw overall. And the score is what it is. I think it's really about the future. It's all about how this team is projecting into the future. If we're getting killed 42-0, if we're getting blown off the field, if we don't look like a professional team, there were moments where I definitely questioned that early on in the season where the defense was lost, the offense was lost. Special teams has been an ongoing, consistent. Folk, McNamara, punt coverage, punt returns, all that stuff's been great outside of a couple of fumbles early on, but you can't really, again, the Jets are not expected to win the division. The Jets are not expected to go on a playoff push. The Jets were expected to finish with a top 3 pick in this draft. So we can't have these lofty expectations, at least for me, right? From my personal standpoint, I'm not looking at this Jets team living and dying with every single win or loss. It's very, very important to critically analyze how this team is winning, how this team is losing, and being able to hopefully paint a clear picture to stack bricks and move forward and get better in the long term. So anyway, thanks so much for watching, guys. I appreciate it. You guys are the best. It's been a long season, but I feel confident with where we're going, right? We got a lot of draft picks. We have some obvious needs. We had a lot of money in free agency. Let's freaking go, man. Thanks so much for watching, and as always, go Jets.